So this is alienation, not distance, not boundaries, and not misunderstandings. And I'm turning this into a 5-part series because one story just doesn't cover it all. If you haven't watched part 1, go watch that one first. So in this series, we're talking about perspectives. I'm a parent who's been alienated by a child. And I'm also an adult child who walked away from my parents and my only sibling because they caused real, lifelong damage, emotionally and physically. For years, I told people my parents were dead while they were still alive, just so I wouldn't be asked questions that reopened wounds that changed my life. That's why I can sit with both sides of this, and that really matters. Now let's talk today about one piece of alienation that people really don't like naming. Sometimes alienation happens when an adult child gets involved with someone who is deeply insecure, controlling, or emotionally manipulative. And before anyone gets defensive, I'm not talking about all partners. I'm talking about patterns. This is what these patterns often look like. It starts subtle. Concern disguised as care, protection disguised as love. Things like your family doesn't treat you right, or they don't respect your boundaries, or I don't like how they make you feel. I just don't think they want what's best for you. And at first it feels validating to the adult child. But slowly, the message shifts. Your family becomes the problem. Your history gets rewritten. And normal conflict gets labeled as abuse. And any pushback becomes proof. And without even realizing it, the adult child starts pulling away. Not because they made a clear decision, because distance feels safer than the disagreement. And this is where alienation actually takes hold. Because now the family isn't just imperfect. They're framed as dangerous, toxic, or untrustworthy. And the adult child feels torn. On one side, the people who raised them, who loved them, who have history with them. On the other side, the person they live with, love, depend on, and don't want to lose. So they choose the path of least resistance. Silence, distance, cut off. And it's not because it's right, and it's not because it's easier than challenging the person who controls the emotional climate of their life. And here's the part people avoid saying out loud. Some people don't want partners who have strong family ties. They want loyalty without competition. They want influence without interference. And they want to be the only voice that matters. That doesn't always look abusive from the outside. Sometimes it looks calm. Sometimes it looks healthy. And sometimes it looks like boundaries. But isolation dressed up as healing is still isolation. And families feel this shift before they can even explain it. The tone changes, the warmth disappears, everything they say gets filtered through someone else's lens. And no matter how carefully they speak, They're told they're crossing a boundary that they were never invited to. That's not resolution. That's alienation in slow motion. And I want to be very clear here about something before anyone misunderstands me. I'm not talking about abuse. And I'm not talking about situations where cutting contact was necessary for safety or survival. Those stories matter, and they deserve their own space. And we will talk about that later in this series. Right now, I'm talking about the kind of alienation that happens quickly through influence, reframing, and isolation where no one ever gets to sit down and tell the truth out loud. And for families living inside this, there's often like no explosion, no final conversation, no moment you can point to. It's just a slow loss you can't really explain. And you weren't allowed to prevent it. In part 3, I want to talk about what this feels like from the parents' side. The confusion, the grief, and the silence nobody prepares you for. We'll see you then.